the Magi. We're all familiar with the Christmas story and the three kings. But what do we really know about the three kings? And what really was their story? So let's take a look at who these three kings were and what they did to get to see Jesus. Well, so much of our story is just a few words, and yet this journey took a long time. These three kings probably didn't know each other and never had any contact with one another, but they all saw a sign in the sky. And it said to them that someplace in the world at that time, a new king was born. And so, feeling obligated out of maybe just the part of their being a king, they wanted to go and welcome the new king into this world. So they each set out in their own way and decided to go with a retinue of camel and all kinds of supplies. This wasn't a day's journey. This maybe took them months, and they had to go hundreds and even maybe 1,000 miles to get to where the star would end. And so they picked up their little belongings and they started their journey, a journey to follow that star. And at some point, we have no idea. It's totally up to our imagination to figure out what really happened. But let's take this trip and see what might have happened. Each of them started out in their own country, and they followed that star. And maybe at some point outside the Jerusalem, they, by miraculous means, met up. And when they did, they got together and they went to the palace of Herod. And when they get there, Herod doesn't know why they're there. What king? What king are you talking about? A king in my area? Who is this king? And so he told the three kings to go out and find the king. And when he did, to come back and tell him, so he too could go out and adore him. And so the three kings leave, and then the question becomes, where did they find this king? Where am I going to go and look for him? So they went out and they went knocking on doors, and they went into the villages and they said, have you seen a young child born within the last maybe 2 years? And if so, could you tell us where he is? And they went knocking and knocking, and they went from village to village, and finally they came to this little village. And there they found someone who said, yes, there was a man and a woman down the street who recently just had a child. So they go to this house and they knock on the door. And lo and behold, a gentleman comes to the door and opens the door. And when he opens the door, he sees these three camels out there with three men dressed luxuriously. And he's wondering, they must be at the wrong place. And they said, we have come to worship the Savior. And Joseph lets them in and gathers Mary. And Jesus at this point, maybe 6 months, 9 months, we don't know how old he was toddling around on the floor. And they invite the three kings in. And the three kings are amazed at watching this little child. And they sit down and very hospitable with Mary and Joseph, and she feeds them. And the neighbors outside are really curious, as all neighbors usually are. Well, what are these camels and all these, looks like rich people? Why are they going into the house of Mary and Joseph? He's just a carpenter. But inside something was happening. These three kings were meeting the God of gods, the Lord of lords, the King of kings. Divinity made humanity. And they offered to Mary and Joseph their gifts. One gave them a gift of gold, signifying his regality and being the king of the universe. And another king gave him a gift of incense, And incense was a sign of his divinity, because incense was usually burned and the smoke went to the air. And when it did, it was a sign of acceptance from God. And then we have the gift of myrrh, used in burial. And this was a symbolism of what would happen to Jesus on the cross on Good Friday. And when they were finished, they did not go back to Herod, because an angel came to them and said, "Do not go back, go your own way." Because God knew that Herod was not going to go and worship Jesus. He was going to do the most awful thing possible. He was going to go and slaughter everybody until he got rid of that king who might be a threat to his kingship. So the kings left, and they get left as different people, because these were one of the first peoples who actually came, worshipped God in this little child, and became witnesses. And when they left, they went back to their little homes, and their little kingdoms changed, because now they had met God. They had seen the Savior of the world. And yes, these three kings went back and told their own kingdoms what they had seen, that this little child was born, and now he was going to be the Savior of the world. And they became, in a sense, the first evangelizers, and they were pagans. And so when we look at the three kings, we're looking at three people who followed their star. And we all will have a star someplace in our life, and we're asked to follow it. And the question is, will we? And if we do follow that star, will we find at the end of it the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, God made man? Emmanuel, God with us.